Ignore this warning for just 5 minutes, and you could be hurtling blindly towards a personal catastrophe that shatters your marriage, leaves your peace of mind in ruins, and sends your health spiraling dangerously out of control. What seems now like innocent disagreements or minor irritations between older wives and their husbands could rapidly mutate into profound resentment and silent hostility. The consequences, frighteningly severe. Recent alarming research from the European Heart Journal 2019 confirms that prolonged marital strain doesn't just poison your emotions, it actively accelerates your risk of devastating cardiovascular events. By the time couples realize the gravity of their situation, the damage, both psychological and physical, is often irreversible. Women everywhere are silently grappling with a terrifying reality: the slow, relentless erosion of intimacy and connection with their husbands, escalating from mild annoyance into soul-crushing bitterness. Soon what once felt like comforting familiarity becomes suffocating isolation. Mornings are tense evenings filled with cold detachment, and every shared moment brims with unspoken anger. But that's not even the scariest part. Imagine lying awake at night wondering if the emotional pain you've bottled up has already begun weakening your heart, literally pushing your body towards a breaking point. Tonight, brace yourself for a shocking expose of the real culprits behind this dangerous shift. You'll be forced to confront the harsh realities: evolving relationship expectations, hidden grievances, fading intimacy, and the toxic effects they unleash on your physical well-being. Ignoring these early signals might seem easier now, but it could mean waking up later to a marriage beyond saving and a health crisis that threatens your very life. In the next few moments, we'll reveal the explosive underlying causes fueling the quiet rage and frustration felt by older wives. Prepare yourself, because facing these brutal truths head-on is your only chance at diffusing this ticking emotional time bomb. This isn't merely relationship advice. It's an urgent, life-saving intervention. Your future happiness, health, and even survival depend critically on the strength of the emotional bond you safeguard today. Transition. Brief clinical story. Consider Marianne, a 59-year-old who arrived at my clinic clutching her chest in panic. She had never experienced such debilitating pressure before, and she feared it was the start of a heart attack. Our immediate tests showed borderline high blood pressure, a surge in heart rate, and signs of exhaustion, yet no definitive evidence of an ongoing cardiac event. Delving deeper revealed a long history of marital imbalance. She carried every household task, felt perpetually disrespected, and had grown silently furious with her husband's emotional unavailability. Marianne admitted she had spent years brushing off small resentments: the lack of conversation, the emotional distance, and his chronic refusal to shoulder certain duties. Over time, that anger festered. She found herself seething at the mere sight of him, lounging on the sofa while she cooked and cleaned after a full day of work. These feelings crept into her sleep, frayed her nerves, and amplified her risk for stress-related palpitations and high blood pressure. According to a 2020 publication in the Journal of Psychosomatic Research, ongoing relationship struggles can contribute to the body's fight-or-flight reactions. Chronic tension floods your system with hormones that heighten cardiovascular strain, disturb digestion, and hinder normal immune functions. Marianne discovered that by tackling the imbalance in her marriage through structured communication and therapy, her chest pain subsided, and her doctor concluded she had likely sidestepped a crisis by taking early action. Her experience mirrors a pattern in numerous couples. Small annoyances develop into large emotional divides when left unaddressed. For many women, the final straw isn't always a singular catastrophic event, but rather the exhaustion of dealing with endless details alone. As these frustrations deepen, they pose a risk not only to the bond that unites two people, but to one's overall wellness. Science and key factors. We'll explore 9 major factors that contribute to a wife's deepening dissatisfaction: a swirl of practical responsibilities, emotional letdowns, and the insidious effects of time. Each factor can lead to resentment so substantial that it may, as some research indicates, intersect with genuine health ramifications. 1. The passing years and changing expectations. As adulthood progresses, individuals who once felt euphoric in their relationships can encounter a subtle shift. The newness of romance that characterized the early years fades in the face of countless mundane tasks, mortgage payments, demanding jobs, and the swirl of raising children. Women often reach a point where they wonder if the blissful partner they married is the same man who now appears distant, overly focused on work, and lacking in emotional presence. In line with findings from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health 2018, prolonged interpersonal dissatisfaction can cause persistently high cortisol levels. Those elevated levels, which sustain a body-wide stress response, can escalate a variety of risks from hypertension to compromised immunity. While you might dismiss a spouse's preoccupation with his job as simple busyness, day after day, it becomes an emotional vacuum that erodes closeness. What was once admired, his spontaneity or ambition, may be viewed as negligence or obsession. Women's perspectives also evolve. A younger self might ignore certain slip-ups or cling to romantic illusions, but decades later, patience grows thinner, and tolerance for ongoing issues decreases. In many cases, the once lenient spouse begins to expect more direct emotional involvement, consistent emotional check-ins, partnership in household chores, and shared problem-solving. If these needs remain unmet, frustration bubbles to the surface. Symptoms of this emotional pressure may manifest in disrupted sleep or tension headaches. Some women catch themselves feeling on edge every time their husband walks through the door. Unresolved tension can become an invisible threat, often overshadowed, until more alarming physical symptoms bring it to light. By the time a wife seeks help, she may already harbor bitter resentment. Changing roles and imbalance of responsibility. One key source of frustration is the distribution of household duties. Early in a marriage, couples might imagine it'll be simple to share chores equitably, but reality intrudes: children, extended work hours, and the endless demands of modern life. Gradually, many wives end up handling a disproportionate load, both physically laundry cleaning errands and emotionally scheduling doctor's appointments, soothing children's conflicts, remembering birthdays. This invisible burden, often termed emotional labor, involves mental to-do lists and caretaking tasks that rarely appear in straightforward chore charts. Husbands who rely heavily on their wives' organization and nurturing might consider it normal, but the wife silently wonders why she must micromanage everything. Over years, she develops simmering discontent. That discontent transforms into weariness, leading her to feel more relief than joy when he's out of the house. Moreover, a sense of underappreciation thickens the cloud of negativity. Wives handling near-constant responsibilities can feel that their efforts go unnoticed, breeding resentment. Meanwhile, men who believe "I work long hours to pay the bills, that should suffice," fail to see how exhausting it is to juggle countless small tasks. That mental burden weighs a wife's mood down daily, often eroding any positivity in her interactions. This state of imbalance pushes the human body out of homeostasis. Chronic stress triggers the release of inflammatory molecules, and repeated spikes of cortisol can degrade overall health over time, as described in a 2021 article from Psychoneuroendocrinology. The vicious cycle emerges: more stress at home means more stress physically, draining emotional energy and reinforcing negativity. Couples that fail to break this loop may drift into deeper alienation. 3. Declining satisfaction in intimacy. The early years of passion often carry a couple through minor disagreements or life's frequent obstacles. However, as bodies age and daily routines become more rigid, physical and emotional closeness can suffer. Wives sometimes observe that their husbands have stopped investing effort in affectionate gestures or ignore their emotional cues. Perhaps the husband's job leaves him too tired, or he becomes complacent, assuming she no longer craves the same level of attention as before. The disruption can be physiological too. Hormone fluctuations for women might lessen desire, and men also experience changes that hinder spontaneity. If partners don't acknowledge these shifts, the bedroom becomes a zone of avoidance and tension rather than a site of shared emotional support. The wife may feel undervalued or undesired, and her psychological response can lean toward anger. Emotional closeness is a potent remedy. Research from the Archives of Sexual Behavior 2017 shows that sustained intimacy supports mental health, lowers stress, and can even help couples manage conflicts more efficiently. Yet in some marriages, the gap widens. This erosion intensifies a wife's sense of rejection or solitude. She wonders if she's even wanted, fueling her dislike toward a partner who feels more and more like a stranger. When resentment sets in, the feedback loop of emotional and sexual withdrawal feeds itself. Neglecting that realm of connection invites suspicion, anger, and heartbreak. Wives who experience this loss of closeness sometimes displace their energy. Elsewhere, work, hobbies, or children, leaving the marriage starved of genuine warmth. Before they know it, they see their husband as a distant roommate, stirring greater animosity. For unresolved conflicts and failure to communicate, communication breakdown is a hallmark of long-term discord. In the initial stages of a relationship, many couples actively address small irritations. But as years pass, they start letting grievances pile up. That stack of petty or moderate complaints can become an overwhelming mountain. Women often express the frustration of not feeling heard, repeatedly bringing up an issue only for it to be dismissed, minimized, or forgotten. Over time, they learn that sharing concerns might yield little result, so they stop voicing them, which transforms them into bottled resentments. According to findings by Dr. John Gottman in a 2015 piece from the Journal of Marriage and Family, this pattern of unaddressed issues can escalate toward contempt, a potent predictor of relationship breakdown. When a wife feels that any attempt at discussion is greeted by eye-rolling sarcasm or outright disregard, a more toxic environment emerges. Living in such an environment triggers the body's sympathetic nervous system, leading to chronic agitation. Muscles remain tense. The heart rate might hover above normal, and stress hormones saturate the blood. These changes wear down resilience. At first, it's just poor sleep or periodic spikes in annoyance, but left unresolved, they can nudge the individual toward health crises like hypertension, anxiety disorders, or other psychosomatic conditions. Eventually, the emotional numbness sets in. A wife whose pleas and suggestions are routinely brushed off may retreat, focusing on personal interests or other familial relationships. When her husband remains clueless or disinterested, that final link of empathy snaps. The sense that her concerns never matter fosters a deeper dissatisfaction, sometimes culminating in a firm, "I can't stand him." 5. Growing self-awareness and personal evolution. With age often comes an amplified sense of self-awareness. After decades of prioritizing others' children, career, spouse, many women reach a phase where they prioritize their own mental and emotional needs. They see that time is finite, that the roles they've played might have overshadowed personal aspirations. This self-awakening can be liberating yet tumultuous if a partner doesn't share or respect the new perspective. For example, a woman might realize she's never had the chance to develop her artistic inclinations, or she wants to travel extensively. If her husband remains rooted in old routines, uninterested in growth, she experiences a frustrating disconnection. She looks at him and sees someone who hasn't evolved while she craves fresh challenges. The disappointment morphs into a question: is this the life I want for the next 20 years? Clinically, this restlessness can manifest as unease, mild depression, or frequent irritability, especially if the marriage stifles her newfound ambitions. The World Health Organization, WHO 2019, has underscored the link between mental health and supportive relationships. In an unsupportive environment, a woman's emotional distress escalates, sometimes fueling physical ailments, such as chronic headaches or gut issues. Yet personal evolution can also be a springboard for renewal if both partners adapt. Some spouses see their wives' renewed vigor as an inspiration to explore passions together, learning a new language, forging new social circles, or embracing philanthropic efforts. In those cases, the relationship can flourish. But if only one side is growing, the gap widens, fueling friction. Physical changes, attraction, and self-worth. Physical shifts are inevitable with age. Wrinkles, weight fluctuations, hormone imbalances. These can affect a woman's confidence. Add in the fear that her husband no longer finds her appealing, and the emotional toll can be overwhelming. When compliments wane or affectionate gestures grow scarce, a wife's mind may spiral into negative assumptions. Perhaps he doesn't love her anymore, or maybe he's comparing her to younger women. Men also face aging, so ideally both should support each other's transformations. However, if the husband dismisses her insecurities or fails to reassure her, the result is deeper distress. That distress bleeds into day-to-day interactions, magnifying every slight into a stinging wound. Some women then internalize the belief that they've lost value. This kind of negative self-image is more than an emotional drag. It can generate anxiety, sleeplessness, and increased susceptibility to illness. Chronic stress about appearance can raise cortisol levels and compromise metabolic stability. The sense of being unloved or undervalued often triggers a cycle. The more she doubts her attractiveness, the less she tries to connect, causing further distance, yet small gestures can reverse this downward spiral. Open discussion about appearance concerns, reminders of mutual appreciation, and willingness to adapt intimacy practices to new comfort levels can reaffirm a couple's bond. As Dr. Michael Greger pointed out in a 2020 talk for the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, consistent emotional support is critical in mitigating stress-related disorders. Fostering closeness, even as both bodies change, can avert a descent into bitterness. 7. Financial pressures and clashing lifestyles. Money can be a silent killer of affection. With looming retirement potential, educational expenses for children or grandchildren, and possible medical bills, older adults feel immense financial pressure. If partners differ on saving versus spending priorities, conflict brews. The wife might be pushing to save for a secure future, only to watch her husband spend impulsively. Over time, that frustration becomes pointed bitterness. Additionally, many wives bear the brunt of household budgeting, scrutinizing expenses, planning grocery lists, paying utility bills. If husbands opt out of serious involvement or remain passive about debt, the wife senses she's alone in shouldering burdens. This scenario can fuel that classic "I'm living with an adult child" feeling. She wonders why she's the only adult in the room handling tasks that affect both of their futures. Financial stress also disrupts sleep and heightens irritability, with potential ripple effects on blood pressure and immune function. Extended tension around money can aggravate every other aspect of the marriage, making arguments more frequent and intense. It's easy for a wife to dwell on the what-ifs, fueling anxiety about a future that might be unstable due to her spouse's complacency. If spouses continue to avoid real financial conversations, the resentment grows. By contrast, open discussion of budgets, consulting a financial planner, or working together on mutual long-term goals fosters unity. When finances transform from a wedge into a joint project, couples can find renewed camaraderie. But without that cooperative spirit, it becomes a festering source of discontent. 8. The need for respect and equal standing. Older wives often develop a sharper awareness of when they are respected and when they're not. For years, they might have tolerated subtle dismissiveness, jokes at their expense, or belittling comments. As time wears on, patience erodes and the desire for genuine regard intensifies. If a husband consistently shows disregard for her opinions or her work, frustration shifts toward outright dislike. Respect isn't limited to big decisions or major life events. It includes everyday exchanges, valuing her input, refraining from hurtful teasing, and treating her role as equally vital. A dynamic of condescension can drive a massive wedge, leading a wife to feel her partner will never consider her an equal. Over time, that experience can be soul-crushing. From a physical health standpoint, living under disrespect fosters constant tension. The stress hormone cascade can trigger migraines, digestive issues, and muscle pain. When you live in a persistently adversarial environment, your body remains in survival mode, which is detrimental in the long run. Even minor remarks that undermine her self-worth can have outsized physiological repercussions. Couples who value mutual respect create an emotional safe space. Within this space, honest dialogue and compromise become feasible. However, if the husband sees no problem in belittling or ignoring his wife's inputs, that safe space vanishes. She ends up emotionally isolated, harboring pent-up bitterness that contaminates the entire relationship. 9. Yearning for change and new experiences. Many women in their 50s, 60s, or beyond suddenly realize they've spent decades supporting others, children, extended family, or partners. This realization can prompt a longing for novelty, travel, picking up a new language, or exploring a dormant passion such as painting. Yet if the husband resists this shift or mocks her aspirations, a wife feels trapped. She may interpret his reluctance to adapt as an indication that he's holding her back. The tension intensifies if she imagines a more liberated life on the other side of the fence. While he might prefer sticking to routines, she might be ready to leap into unknown territory. That clash can lead to resentment as she wonders if she wasted her prime years. Psychologically stifling the need for exploration causes turmoil. According to a 2017 study in psychology and aging, seniors who seek learning experiences exhibit better mental agility and lower rates of depression. When her partner belittles or discourages these pursuits, it can escalate underlying frustrations. The wife feels disrespected and suffocated, fueling her dislike for the man who seems to be hindering her personal growth. On a positive note, couples who join hands to pursue new goals such as volunteering, traveling, or exploring new talents often rekindle a dormant spark. By refreshing their shared experiences, they replace stagnation with excitement. However, if the husband stands in the way, the marriage becomes a cage rather than a supportive union. Over time, that suffocation grows impossible to ignore. Action plan: practical steps to rebuild connection. How can you tackle these 9 factors before they morph into a crisis? Below is a clear roadmap. Step 1. Immediate emotional check-in. Commit to a daily or weekly emotional checkup where you each mention one difficulty and one triumph. Keep it brief, but don't skip it. If a tense issue arises, vow to revisit it soon rather than bury it. This habit ensures small resentments don't accumulate into overwhelming problems. Step 2. Share the burdens. Sit down with a pen and paper or a shared spreadsheet to list daily tasks from cooking to calling the plumber. Assign responsibilities fairly, then rotate them if needed. Even drafting this list may enlighten a spouse about how imbalanced your current system is. When the load is balanced, negative feelings diminish. Step 3. Revitalize intimacy. If intimacy is faltering, talk openly about changes in hormones, preferences, or emotional closeness. Set aside time for activities that boost affection, a date night, an exercise routine you do together, or reading a book side by side. Physical and emotional closeness must be maintained. It can't be relegated to an afterthought. Address the sense of disconnection before it grows into aversion. Step 4. Conquer communication. Roadblocks: use constructive language like "I feel" instead of "you." Always, if tempers flare too often, consider professional counseling. Also practice active listening, which means reflecting back what your partner said to confirm you understood them correctly. This technique cuts misinterpretations and reaffirms respect. Step 5. Encourage mutual growth. Support each other's changes and pursuits. Maybe your spouse wants to switch careers or take up painting. Even if it seems unfamiliar, try to be receptive and supportive. That goodwill often inspires reciprocal support for your personal ambitions. Mutual encouragement of personal evolution can be a powerful antidote to resentment. Step 6. Cultivate physical and emotional appreciation. Compliment each other regularly. Even small things like a well-prepared meal or a thoughtful gesture can reaffirm connection. Genuine affirmations go beyond superficial flattery. They highlight sincere gratitude. Feeling appreciated counteracts brewing contempt. Simple touches or hugs can inject warmth back into daily life, reminding you both why you joined forces in the first place. Step 7. Establish financial clarity. Have open conversations about long-term savings, debt, future travel aspirations, and retirement. Identify common ground. Maybe you both want to relocate or pursue a hobby together in retirement. A shared vision for finances can replace mutual suspicion with collaboration. If needed, bring in a neutral financial advisor to mediate big decisions. Step 8. Respect is non-negotiable. Ban belittling, name-calling, or sarcasm from your exchanges. When mistakes occur, apologize promptly. Put each other's dignity above the impulse to prove yourself right. Consistent respect fosters an environment of trust and intimacy that cannot thrive under persistent disrespect. Step 9. Launch shared adventures. Pick a fresh experience to embark on, together: a new exercise class, a gardening project, or a cultural event. Novelty disrupts routines and offers a sense of teamwork. You both face new challenges and share the thrill of discovery. This shift reminds you that your relationship can still evolve positively no matter how long you've been together. Call to comment: C#, Sao Chep. Have you ever noticed this sign? Comment "I feel it" if you relate, "I'm safe" if not, and add a question for the doctor. Arwaisinum, virality enhancers. Will add a missing spark, a structured challenge, and we'll illustrate with anonymized real-life stories to demonstrate that the path to renewal is attainable for anyone who dares to engage. 1. The 24-hour challenge. In the coming day, choose one nagging worry. Maybe you resent your spouse's interrupting habit or a refusal to help with dishes, and articulate it calmly. Write down how you feel, propose a solution, and give your partner a chance to reflect. Ask them to do the same. Then swap notes, read carefully, and calmly discuss each viewpoint. This exercise might reveal problems you've downplayed for years by focusing on just one complaint each. You avoid overwhelm and ensure clarity. Even a small resolution, like an agreement that the husband will clean up after meals at least 3 nights a week, can lift an immense weight. Noticing that your partner is willing to compromise can spark hope, too. The 7-day checklist. Over a week, follow a simple plan. Devote 15 minutes a day to face-to-face phone-free conversation. Offer at least one specific compliment or gratitude expression per day. Lastly, could you split or rotate a set of chores that one person normally does alone? Midway through the 7 days, sit together to outline financial priorities for the coming year. By day 7, tension might noticeably decrease, replaced by a sense of partnership. Each segment in this checklist prevents unspoken anger from festering. The act of praising each other highlights mutual appreciation, countering the negativity bias that creeps into daily life. When combined with an open review of money matters, you form a holistic approach that addresses major sources of discord. 3. Case study, Sharon and Greg. Sharon, 53, felt her energy drained by Greg's tendency to lounge in front of the television while she managed laundry bills and cooking. She challenged Greg for just 24 hours to read her written concerns. She was tired of feeling invisible. Fishhorn, she wanted him to step up on housekeeping. Greg, 54, had never realized how burned out she was until reading her note, so he offered to cook dinner twice weekly and handle laundry on weekends. Within a week, Sharon reported feeling an emotional lift. She saw Greg's willingness to address her main pain point. Her migraines, likely aggravated by stress, subsided somewhat as well. 4-case study, Laura and Adrian. Laura, 60, juggled volunteer obligations, social planning for large family gatherings, and the emotional labor of checking on elderly relatives. Adrian, 62, rarely grasped how draining these tasks were. During the 7-day checklist, Laura spelled out her personal wish to join an online painting class and reduce her event planning time. Adrian realized he had assumed she relished organizing. He offered to coordinate the next family reunion so Laura could focus on painting. Over those 7 days, their conversations grew relaxed and fluid, and Laura finally felt free to nurture her creative side. 5. The role of regular checkups. While navigating these transformations, always consult your physician. If you sense changes in blood pressure, recurring sleep disruptions, or unexplained chest pains, chronic stress can indeed escalate those silent dangers, and professional medical guidance helps detect or manage issues early. Relationship renewal goes hand in hand with health vigilance. Neither replaces the other. They complement each other for comprehensive well-being. Credibility and trust. One World Health Organization 2019 underscored the crucial link between relationship health and overall mental wellness in aging populations. 2 Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health 2018 published findings demonstrating that persistent marital dissatisfaction can sustain chronically high cortisol levels, intensifying cardiovascular risk. 3. Dr. Michael Greger, 2020, American College of Lifestyle Medicine webinar, highlighted how consistent emotional support in a marriage can mitigate stress-related conditions and bolster holistic health. Our subpoint, ethical reminder. All suggestions here support healthier communication, reduce stress, and stronger marriages. Never discontinue any medication or treatment without talking to your healthcare professional. Always consult your physician if you suspect physical or psychological complications. Your marriage can provide essential emotional nourishment, but it's not a stand-in for professional care. Thoughtful maintenance of body and mind in synergy with healthy relationships leads to the most robust well-being. Conclusion, recap, and engagement. We've navigated the extensive range of reasons that older wives can sour on their husbands, from shifting life stages to intense financial concerns. We've revealed how these emotional woes, if ignored, can intersect with and amplify physical risks. Yet we've also mapped out how intentional communication, shared responsibilities, and nurtured intimacy can reforge a deep supportive connection. Bear in mind these essential insights. Open dialogue stops irritations from ballooning into major rifts. Fair distribution of tasks and roles prevents silent anger from fermenting. Fostering each other's aspirations preserves a sense of unity and reduces blame. If this exploration resonated with you, show your support by liking and sharing. Subscribe to our channel for more crucial insights into how emotional, marital, and physical health intertwine. We're eager to hear your experiences. Leave a comment so we can learn from one another. Finally, here's our parting question. What is one immediate step you'll take to ensure respect and empathy in your relationship this week? End of script.